Hey, hello there! Welcome again to another series of e-learning and campus journalism. I know that you've all waiting for this, so let's start our discussion. Today, we are going to discuss feature writing. Basically, feature is a write-up that is based on a mysterious ingredient in journalism called human interest. It appeals to us because we can relate to it. An umbrella genre of journalism and newspaper, online editions, and magazines with different subcategories. At broadest sense, everything which is not hard news or editorials or opinion columns is called feature write-up. Famous to the name the jewel or gem, precious stone of a newspaper because something treasured for time and eternity. Feature articles are not meant to deliver the news, but they contain elements of news. Their main purpose is to add the human elements to the news and to add color and feeling. They often recap major news that already has been reported. News values is substituted with human interest, mood, atmosphere, emotion, irony, or humor. Basically, it asks the question why and how. An in-depth look at what's going on behind the news. Straight news appeals to the physical while feature story appeals to the soul and color of the story. In order to easily understand feature, let me give you how to spell out feature. Let's start with letter F. F for factual, not fictitious. We are not into baseless stories, rather facts and history. E for entertaining. Since its main course is human interest, we should give appeal to humors and senses. A for appealing to the emotions. One should relate or feel the story. T for timely or not timely. Either or, for it gives interest to public. U for unusual, something we don't know yet, something hidden and has a great potential. R for reader-oriented, it must reach common people. And letter E to complete the word feature is explanation. It can also be an extrapolation or extending, projecting known information. But remember this as well. Feature is not 1. Literary article. It is never a literary article. 2. Opinion article. It's too far from opinion. 3. Storytelling. Though it gives us a feeling of story, but it should never be storytelling. It should be factual. And lastly, fiction story. We are not creating an inanimate object or something that is not true. So it must be a true to life story. If you really wanted to be a feature writer, let me give you the qualities of an effective feature writer. First, inquisitive, given to examination or investigation. You are inclined to ask questions just like Cara David. Number 2 is eager to learn. You wanted to go deeper, go insane of the hidden story. 3 is sympathetic towards other people's feeling. You know how to put people's feelings into writing. Describe them. And 4th, capable of seeing beneath the surface of ordinary events. Simply uncontented of dying, but why and how they died. I know that you are being supplemented with the different types of feature stories in your module, but let me just still give you the most important types of feature stories. Number 1 is news feature. This is some kind of a news event, but the story goes deeper than the news item as more background information and related details are presented and expounded on. I'll give you an example. Let's say A community is experiencing a methamphetamine epidemic. This kind of feature would begin with citing facts such as arrest statistics from local, state, or federal authorities, or treatment numbers from area hospitals and drug counselors. You can also ask quotes from police, emergency room doctors, drug counselors, or just try to meet with other addicts themselves. In this way, the news feature seeks to put an all-out or to put a human face on a given crime statistics to bring the story to life for reader and inform them of the potential problems the issue may be causing. Number 2 on the list is informative feature. This is an article that is highly informative but entertaining at the same time, based on interview or taken from research. You can ask or collect information from some people or from the research itself. Number 3 is service feature, or this is basically known as how to feature. This deals with instructive articles that help readers cope with everyday living. I think YouTube how-tos in YouTube can be transcribed into a feature or how-to feature. Number 4 is personality sketch, one of my favorite. This article features a person, popular or not, rich or poor, but has done something worth publishing or is currently engaged in an interesting or profitable endeavor. Alright, number 5 is personal experience. This emanates not only from earth-shaking experiences like riding an airplane that was hijacked, being caught inside a movie house on fire, or being one of the survivors of the volcano eruption or earthquake, but also even from ordinary experiences that happen every day. Experienced feature writers say even the most experienced can make them into an interesting feature if it is handled well. There is also the what we call travel stories or travelogue. This may be a combination of personal experience and descriptive features. Number 6 is humorous feature, story with wit and humor. Number 7 is developmental feature. This features some current or newly launched project or programs of the government that need to be disseminated and that would draw public support. And number 8 is human interest story. This is the famous one. It appeals to emotion, has a little news value or none at all, but has a human interest appeal with interesting style. Now, the big question is how to organize ideas in writing a feature. So now let me give you the organization of ideas. This is, I think, the secret formula in writing your feature. So how to write it? First, let's follow the laws of progressive reader involvement. This is one of the efficient and effective types of writing a news feature. Alright, so let's start with number 1. Tease me. Alright, so you need to tease me. What is the story all about? Why do I have to read this? Number 2 is tell me what you are up to. How am I going to understand this? What is the influence of this particular write-up to my life? How did this particular write-up affects my daily living? So that's the question. And number 3, prove it. Now this is the time for you to give me the facts, to give me the evidences, to give me the proofs. And number 4, help me remember it. I should always remember this kind of article. This is my favorite, just like in a novel. This is my favorite novel. The ending was so great. It let me feel part of the story. So help me remember it. So once you're done with the organization of ideas, the next question is, what are the parts and what should be the content of my feature write-up? So let's start with introduction. So in introduction, it always begins with an eye-catching or a showcase lead. Get the reader's attention quickly. You need to start with a well-thought-out first paragraph touching on some aspect of the person's life that you are writing about, or the event if it is not a person. Have a beginning that draws in readers, a transition that might repeat it in the middle and in the ending of the story, or referring to the beginning of the story. Now let me give you an example of a Filipino example of something dramatic, something that will give me an interest to read. Ready? Ang Kalahi Seeds sa Pagbabago Mukha ng Barangay Anas. Tiktilaok, nagising si Totoy sa tunog na iyon. Hudyat ito ng panibagong araw ng trabaho. Humigop lamang siya ng kape at kumain ng ilang pirasong tinapay bilang agahan. Pagkatapos kumain, naligo at nagbihis siya. Isinuot niya ang kanyang lumang pantalong, may dumi pa ito ng semento at buhangin dahil ito rin ang kanyang ginamit kahapon. Got it? Try to have something dramatic. Try to be descriptive in starting your feature write-up. I'd also like you to know that there are responsibilities in writing the lead. It's not just only about dramatic. It still depends on your purpose. Because in responsibilities of lead writing, you must set the tone for what follows. You also must get the article underway, must bridge the rest of the article down to your ending or down to the conclusion of your story. Because it can be a distinctive incident, a short sentence, an analogy lead, a quotation lead, a question lead, or even a picture lead. In writing our lead, we have the 5 key ingredients for cooking up terrific feature stories. So the first is the great lead, as I have mentioned. You can set a scene or describe a place, just like my example, or tell a story. Grab the reader's attention and pull them into the story. We also have description. Set the scene for the story and brings the people and places into it to life. Prompts a reader to create mental images in his or her mind. You have to be specific with this. Next is quotes. Include only the most colorful and interesting quotes. Everything else should be paraphrased. Remember that. Anecdotes. Anecdotes are nothing more than very short stories, but in features, they can be incredibly effective in illustrating key points or in bringing people and incidents to life. And last one, to complete the 5 key ingredients, we have background information. Have a solid information to back up the point your feature is trying to make, or you can get your facts straight. The next part is the rising action. It is fully organized body with a smooth flow of facts or ideas. You need to organize your story carefully. The billboard, or this is the what we call so what graph, right? It also tells what the story is all about. Remember that in rising action, it should be the content of your story. Next to the rising action is the climax. It builds up an interesting picture of the story. Try to draw a picture of your subject or event. This is where climax happens. Now, after the climax, we have now the falling action. It brings the reader gently down. Even better, it makes for a perfect way to wrap up the article in this part. And lastly, we have the conclusion. It ends with strong words, must end with a coda. Remember that the coda is reminding the readers how the article begun. Alright? So you also have to end stories in memorable ways. Often it's good to use quote. This is called clincher. If you're going to use a quote, that's called clincher. The end can be a comment. It can be an arguing a case or drawing conclusion. It can also be a concluding quote, a pointed question, or a summary of the article. Since you're all done with the definition, with the organization of ideas, even the parts, the next question is how to get people interested in your writing. Since we are all writer, we can all write, right? So now let me give you the tips on how to get people interested in your writing. Number one, you need to know your reader. Decide whom you're targeting. Picture the reader in your mind, not just as a broad category, but as a real, living, breathing person. Next is know your end goal. When the person does read your article, what do you want him to feel? Right? And third is explain why the reader should care. This is the classic benefits over features marketing rule. Why should the reader bother with your article, right? Next is anticipating questions. Imagine you're having a face-to-face conversation with your reader where you're sharing information. What additional question might come up? So it must be a full package. Next is write tightly. Include only what is necessary to tell the story. Avoid those nonsense story anymore. Next is enliven your feature with relevant anecdotes or episodes. Quotation or dialogues lend credibility and set mode or atmosphere in the story. You also have to make your ideas concrete by using imagery or figures of speech that the readers will understand. And most important, avoid highbrow language. Otherwise, you'll find or you will not be communicating effectively. And lastly, keep your paragraph short and snappy. Substance of feature should be facts, quotes, description, anecdotes, analysis, and conclusion. Congratulations, you're done with feature writing. Thank you so much for again listening to this e-learning series in campus journalism. I hope that you've learned something and you get something in order for you to write, and to write. There's a quotation that a word after a word after a word is power. So please write, and write. See you again in our next e-learning series only here in Campus Journalism. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button for more lessons and updates in Campus Journalism. See ya!